Morning.
Good morning.
We haven't had a proper chat yet, have we?
No, we haven't, me and you. Have we not? Yeah, we have, Alex. We've spoke at exercise class this morning looking
Yeah, but
stupid.
that wasn't proper.
Then you phoned me afterward. You phoned me
That
twice
wasn't proper.
afterwards. Then we've just done a full podcast and it's only 11:30.
Like, yeah, but I've missed
We've had
you.
3 phone calls.
Yeah, but I've proper missed you. Can we just talk about the fact that I've passed my exam for being a trainer?
Yes, you can go for it.
Yeah, like I've passed my exam for being a trainer.
What kind of
That's it.
trainer?
Like a fitness trainer, personal trainer. How exciting is that?
You're amazing, actually, Alex, because it's not like we've not got enough going on. You've now decided that you want to be a personal trainer.
Why did I do that? You know what it is?
It's because honestly, we're all like this, and I bet our listeners are like this as well. When we get our minds set on something, very excessive. That's why we drank too much, all or nothing, innit?
Yeah, and I think the thing is as well, genuinely, when Joe started offering fitness classes in the group, and then obviously Joe's not with us anymore, so you and me have gone in, I just wanted to make sure I can do it properly. Like not give them a half job, not give them something that isn't well thought through.
Yeah.
Give them something they're really going to value in the membership, and they do love it. They're lovely our mornings, aren't they? Where are you going?
I've got to let my dog in. He's scratching at the bloody door.
You don't let the dog in. But it's like on our membership, I'll carry on talking and twaffling on, and anyone who's listening won't even know she's gone. She's back now, see? Dog's in, Jeffrey's in, probably farting somewhere in the kitchen.
Oh, it stinks. He did it again yesterday, so bad.
But I really wanted to. Our Monday, Wednesday and Friday mornings, they're lovely, aren't they? It's only a small group of us, and they really are lovely. They kickstart your day. It just fills you with like energy and joy. It's lovely. It is really nice,
and it's all included in your membership.
It is. This is a membership plug. Sorry, I did not realise. Speaking of which, though, genuinely, our membership is still. We've still got the introductory offer on joining until the end of April. So if you are thinking of joining, if you're signing up before the end of April, that sign up is still $19.99. And then it will always be always for now, be $9.99 a month. You do get a lot for your membership. So please have a look on our website, Join Be Sober, and it's in www.besoberofficial.com. Today's guest.
Yes.
Well, we've just had a lovely time. Honestly, the conversation, they're always brilliant conversations, but this one went on for absolutely ages. I say, I cut them short normally, as in, I'd say about 45 minutes, let's get that done, let's get it in for an hour. I could have talked to this
What time did we start?
At like 10:30. We went well for an hour.
Oh, I can't work out the time.
So the whole podcast is about an hour normally, 50 minutes to an hour, but that conversation itself was an hour plus this bit.
Oh, it was so... Well, we better shut up then.
I know.
Let's introduce Nick.
Here he is. Hi, Nick. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good. Thanks, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, what have you been up to in this wonderful release from lockdown? Sorry, Lisa, you were going to say something. You have to wait a minute now.
It's all right. I'll wait. Go on, Nick. What have you been up to?
Well, I've had a haircut for a start. So it's good timing. Yeah, if I were to do this a couple of days before, I'd an absolute barnet. But yeah, they've got the sheep shearers out, so they've sorted that out. So yeah, making the most of it. It's good.
I've still got a proper mullet at the moment, but I quite like it. I think I'm rocking it quite well.
Oh, I'm loving this. I've had my eyebrows done, went on the sunbed, nails being done tomorrow. Look how tragic they are. That's horrific. No, today, they've been done today.
I was going to say, it's a good job they didn't look like that on Monday when we went on the camera, because they weren't that bad on Monday.
No, I've been trying to pick them off for today. But anyway, Nick, I'm really excited to have you on. I can't remember, why or how I found you.
You did it on Instagram.
No, I know it was Instagram, because that's what I mean. As soon as I saw you somewhere else, do you know Wise Up? Could it have been through them?
Yeah, we follow each other. Yeah.
It might have been through them, but I saw your Instagram and I was like, We need to get him on our podcast because I just loved it. I was stalking it again last night because it was just so funny. And then I didn't know what your real voice were like because you do like the TikTok. So I'm like, I wonder what he sounds like in real life.
I said he might sound like a Joe Pasquale. You know, like, what if he comes on and he's like, hi!
Yeah,
but I don't know.
No, not quite that, but yeah. Everyone says that. There was a big thing on Twitter as well, and it was a big thing for a while. It's like, what's his actual voice sound like? And then when people hear it, it's just pretty boring. Yeah, standard
it's a
Cornish
lovely
accent.
voice. You've got a lovely voice, Nick.
Thanks, Lisa.
We always get onto voices or accents or something, don't we? All the time we manage to get round to it because I'm not as bad as I used to be because my accent's changed slightly. You know, just before we started recording, you said we sound similar.
I'm not as bad as I used to be because I don't sound like that anymore. Is this where this is going?
No, I meant as in I'm not as worried anymore because I remember when you say, you're always saying I sound dead common. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't sound common. You sound northern. Not all northerners are commoners, are they? We're not.
No, but you do both sound northern. I mean, that's undeniable, yeah.
Right, come on, less about voices.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's talk about your story. And are you all right sharing everything and anything with us?
Ask me anything you want. Yeah.
Do you want to just talk us through what brought you to the point of your Instagram, I guess?
Yeah. So I was a Camberdown addict for 12 years, from 2007 to 2019. Tried to quit, numerous times through that period, and occasionally would get to, I don't know, maybe a few months here and there of not gambling, but never obviously lasting. And then if in the periods where I wouldn't gamble, I would then go in. Mainly 12 years. And then I had therapy arranged. And as part of that, they recommended I do a journal, like as part of recovery and stuff, just putting your thoughts down and whatever. And I thought, well, even if I was to do that, I probably wouldn't stick to it. I thought I might do it for like a week or a couple of weeks, and obviously it would wear off. So I thought, well, I'll start a Twitter account because I had a personal one anyway. I had like 100 followers after 15 years, whatever, just daily ramblings about whatever. So I thought, well, I like Twitter anyway, so I'll do that. And it was much the same, really. It was just for myself, it wasn't to help people, it wasn't to whatever. But gradually, I just started to interact with people and learn from people and stuff. And then I put a tweet out in August, so that was 8 months into recovery. And you can do this thing called an access request, which goes through all of so it's like your whole account history of all the bookies, for the whole 12 years. And so I was in complete denial, obviously, even though I was still in recovery. I had this thing in my mind of, well, I knew what I'd lost emotionally, relationships and, stuff, but I always wanted to know, but was scared to know how much money I'd lost. Because it's not financial addiction, you lose more important stuff, but it was still that big thing of, what did I lose? And I needed the number. So I did that, and it turned out to be £447,000.
Oh my God.
It's almost $500,000. I mean, and it probably more than that, because that was just for the websites, but I went to Las Vegas 9 times, so you're talking $500,000. And I just put a tweet out, just again, like a normal, didn't expect it to be read by anyone. And it just went viral. I had like 20,000 retweets and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And from that, then I had loads of people message saying, look, I'm in the same situation, mate, or my boyfriend is in the same position, or my husband is you, blah, blah, blah. So I without sounding too like spiritual, I felt like a sense of mission. And I was like, right, I can try and help people now, because that was the moment where I felt recovered, rather than just recovering, I felt recovered, because I finally saw it and thought, right, that is the amount. I'm never adding a single penny to that. That is what it is, right? So I had a lot more confidence in recovery and stuff. And you know, for the first time really felt sort of honest to myself, I'd never bet again, you know, whereas before that I was always sort of like, well, you know, maybe I could and whatever.
It
Just
gives you that
one.
accountability, doesn't it? When you decide and make that decision
Right.
to help other people. I kind of did that with sobriety, the same thing. It was like people were so interested. I was like, oh, I could really help people here. So there's no way I could go back now.
It actually happened for you, didn't it, Lisa? Like people were just messaging you before I got sober. People were just messaging you, and then when I got sober and we set this up, it was easy to do because Lisa was already authentically doing it. So it wasn't like, oh, let's go and help people. She was already doing it, including me.
Ask you, Nick, I'm sorry, I just want to go back to the beginning a bit because like this gambling, it really intrigues me. I had a moment when we've said before, we were brought up in pubs, Alex and I, separate ones, but our mum and dad's had pubs. And I genuinely remember the first time going on a slot machine and somebody coming over and pressing all these buttons and all the lights flashing and me winning like this money, thinking, oh my God, that was really easy. We had a slot machine in the pub, and I've never really spoken about this, but we had a slot machine in the pub and I started kind of just putting the odd pound in it. And I think like on a shift in the pub, them days, it was like 15 quid, right? And I remember going back to the bar and thinking, I'll just take a couple of quid out of my shift and put it in. And then thinking, oh shit, I nearly won then. I'll just go and get another couple of quid because then I could dub. And I remember that feeling. And honestly, I got to kind of a point where I were definitely taking more pound coins out of the till than I was earning in that shift and thinking like, I'll just win it back. I'll win it back and then put it back. And I kind of got hold of it quite early. But I remember like it's making me feel dead anxious now thinking about that feeling of how it started and how bad it really could have got, because it did get to quite a stage, but nothing like yours, obviously. But how did yours start? What was the beginning of it?
Not like yours, actually. But it's interesting you say that because, you know, loads of the people I speak to, they say they started because they were in the summer amusements and, you know, the same thing. But that, I mean, I'm from Cornwall, so I just, because I sort of grew up around that, I don't know, I just was never that interested in it or whatever. But so it was just that I did a rite of passage bet. And I say like a rite of passage, and I just turned 18. You can have a bet. So me and a mate, we're on a break from sixth form. We were just walking through town at lunch, and there was a match in the evening. And I remember the match. It was Arsenal and Middlesbrough. My mate supported Arsenal. I supported Tottenham. So just to go against him, really for a laugh, I put a tenner on Middlesbrough. They were like 4-1 underdogs, and you know, miraculously they won. And £10 turned into 40. So although obviously in a really small scale, in almost every gambling addict you would speak to, they win their first bet.
Yeah, I get that, because and then I guess you're chasing the feeling of reward, then, aren't you? That buzz you got from that first. It's kind of like the drinking, I guess. It was interesting how, and I don't know whether this was deliberate, how you spoke about he doing it and male. I always think of it as more of a male issue than a female issue. Have you found that?
Yeah, the majority is male, but increasingly it's becoming a female issue too, because you know you tend to find it's different types of gambling. So you know, I know I'm stereotyping massively, but not like negatively, but you would tend to find that males would perhaps be more inclined to bet on like sports and casinos, whereas there's a big rise in women. You know, I speak to a few like women awareness campaigners for gambling stuff, and they talk about the rise in bingo. You know, if you're watching like Lorraine in the morning, there'll be an advert for like Foxy Bingo, or do you know it's like 9 o'clock in the morning,
so
and then
frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's been so many cases I've read and people have spoke to me where, you know, they would drop the kids off at school, they would get home, they're bored, and perhaps lonely, you know, particularly in lockdown, and they're just on the bingo, you know, or whatever it might be. So it is, I would say, still a mainly male addiction, but it's definitely becoming more of a female problem too.
It's easy now as well, isn't it? With everything being online, you can do everything online. The lottery, like you just said, bingo. I didn't even think about bingo. Did you think about bingo, Lisa?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played bingo online. I
reckon, honestly, like, because that happened really early on to me, I remember thinking, even when I was like 17, like, oh, I've got an addictive personality. That's what I thought. I kind of labelled myself with that straight away because I got on top of it. But yeah, I did think about stuff like, only because I've heard people doing. But when did it kind of get bad for you, Nicole? When did it go from an odd bet with your mates to like trying to find the money that you perhaps didn't have?
Yeah, it was actually gradual. It's funny you say about the addictive personality as well, because I've never regarded myself as having that, so I just didn't, particularly like substances, whatever, I just never drink or drugs, whatever. I was like, nah. So, almost crept up on me, and it developed over a couple of years where I would still only bet semi-regularly, big tournaments or big matches, whatever. And it was still more of a social thing, but it's when I went to uni. And then in 2007, I opened my first online account. And from there then, so it was November or December 2007, I opened my first online account. And I was in the last year of uni. So I had like 7-8 months to go. By the July, I was already in full ground of debt.
Wow.
So it had gone from just being a social thing, on big games, to suddenly opening it online. You've got 24/7 access to it. You can do it without people knowing, because there's a lot of, still taboo. You don't want to be seen doing it. I could just casually do it in the, I would bet in lectures at uni, be back to the hall, just betting on lectures. And then it gradually, gradually developed over a few years. But yeah, it was the online account, then it just spiked. And then it just got worse and worse and snowballed and snowballed. But as I said, just going back to what I said a minute ago, the first bet is so important, because before the age of 25 as well, the like science behind it, the frontal cortex is still developing, which is decision making, it's reward behavior and stuff. And my brain, the first exposure it ever had to gambling was like, it works, right? It pays off, and it's just connections are formed, and the longer you reinforce those connections. I mean, I don't know how it compares to alcohol, but I guess I do, obviously. But with gambling, you're getting a constant positive reinforcement as well. People think that gambling addicts are you're just a bad gambler. It's like, no, you win all the time. Well, not all the time, but you win a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not about the winning. You think it's about the winning, but it's just you're after the risk, the anticipation. That's what you become addicted to.
It's making me anxious, this conversation.
It sounds similar.
See you later. Good speak.
It sounds similar though in a lot of ways to alcohol addiction. There's a lot of all the stuff about the prefrontal cortex and the actual emotional addiction and so on, and the dopamine release and the anticipation of winning and the risk taking, all of that. I guess what's completely different is with alcohol, it is something you become physically dependent on. We know it's an addictive substance, but there's nothing to say that you aren't becoming physically dependent on the chemicals being released by your own behavior, so
right.
I don't know if there are many differences.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's referred to, if you look at, say, two of the main behavioral addictions, like sex and gambling, well, they both rely on a chemical release of some kind, right? Yeah. So again, there's chemistry behind it, in the same way that the alcohol, the drugs would affect your brain, the gambling, and whatever else. So I think they all work in the same way.
And it still has the same social impact, doesn't it? Or a very similar social impact, where, alcohol, it's been recently classified as the most harmful drug because of the damage it does to society. Obviously, there's there's wider issues, drink driving, injury, crime, violence, all of those things. But I guess if you're desperate enough and you're gambling and you are addicted, that's going to impact life as well, yeah?
Yeah, it impacts every part of life. And the problem with, one of the biggest problems with gambling addiction, there's a great podcast called The Invisible Addiction. One of my people I know, Alex Lewis, and he, it's a great term, because I guess to a degree with alcohol, people can be aware of it. It's harder to cover up. You become pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But it's there are some more physical symptoms where I could be gambling at work, on a night out, at a restaurant table, in the car, and nobody knows unless they're looking, at your phone. So you're in like a social setting, you're sort of there, but you're not there, because you're essentially, it turns you into such a good liar because you're always covering up your behavior. No one ever really knows what you're doing. And, it's one of the early signs that, people become addicted. You then start to prioritize gambling ahead of socializing.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go out tonight because I need to be there to do the in-play bets. I need to manage all of that stuff. Or you're so pissed off that you've lost the bet, you don't want to go out. Or you're so anxious about the next one, you don't want to go out, or whatever. It's a perfect mix of sort of anxiety and depression. It's like the bet you've just had or the bet you've got coming up.
And I guess even if people do spot you gambling on your phone, that it's not the same as when if you spotted somebody taking a bit of vodka out of the bag and having a sneaky drink, is it? The reaction would just be, oh, well, he's gambling. Unless they actually suspected that it was an issue for you. I bet the reaction's just like, so he's gambling. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
And it's essentially was like emotionally deceitful to everyone I was ever with, really, friends, family, partners, because I would always tell them just enough, right? So they knew I gambled, so I didn't have to hide it completely.
Yeah.
But I'd always tell them just enough, and I'd almost like allow myself, oh yeah, I'm just having a bet. But then they wouldn't know that I'd be betting every time I was in the toilet, like why I was in the toilet for half an hour.
Yeah.
Well, I was betting every day. So, it's just so easy to hide. And as you say, if people see it, they can see you betting, but they can't see how much you're betting, how many bets you've got on, how much money you're putting in.
And I'd imagine you just tell people when you are in that kind of situation, you only tell them about the wins rather than the losses.
Oh yeah. Well, see again. So I sort of kidded myself that I was in control of it because I wouldn't really tell them about the wins either. I wouldn't. So I would come into the office in the morning and just be in a good mood, right? So I manage a sales office and stuff, and looking back, it's I would come into the office some days in a really good mood, and be really upbeat and try and energize people, and then I come into work some days and be a prick to people, because I was pissed off about the night before. So no one necessarily knew the reason why, or the people may have suspected, but it dominates your mood, because it has consequences beyond just the bet. It's the financial consequence of what you've just lost.
And that must be so hard for the people around you, because they just would have no idea, and they'd see you like coming in dead happy and then coming in being really pissed off. Like
it's just a moody git.
Or you never know what mood he's going to be in.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, living, I say it a lot, but living with an addict is in some ways harder than being an addict, because we know we're addicted. We knew we were addicted deep down, whether we were ready to admit it or not. But for somebody who doesn't know what is going on, and say you do just like, I can't get through to this guy. Like what's wrong with him? And then they might start blaming themselves or whatever.
Do you think enough's being done? Like I was a teacher before I came into this, and I taught in a college, and once a year for 1 hour we would talk about gambling. And obviously I've not got any experience. Like I didn't even think about bingo. So, there's very little being done from what I see. But do you think enough's being done before people get to the legal age where they can gamble to show I mean, I know you'll be doing it and it's hard to say, but is enough being done?
No, like, you can always do more. There's some good work being done. I've had quite a few different academy trusts and stuff ask me to use the videos because they do it in PSHE in schools, and they said, can we use this and that? It's like, yeah, absolutely. There's a company called Epic, and they go into schools. I think Wise Up have done some of that stuff too. So there's a few different groups and people who are trying to get the message across. But I think, like you said, Alex, it needs to be authentic.
Yeah,
it needs to be authentic. So the term lived experience now is almost like getting overused a bit, but it's so important if someone's talking about something like this, because I know if I was in year 10 and someone was well, yeah, say listen to you talking about gambling, I'd be like, right,
what does she know?
Yeah, like what's she on about? Like, she using all the wrong terminology, wrong language and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the same, if you two were to do the pod and you've never touched a drink in your life, it'd be like, what do they know?
It's so true. Nick, when did it get to the point where you realised, like, I've got to sort this out? Was it you that realised, or did somebody else kind of
intervention time?
Yeah. No, there was, so I knew I was addicted, or sort of realised in 2012. So I realised that fairly early on. I mean, it took a few years, but I was convinced by that point I was, because I developed alopecia. So all my hair fell out. It started as a 5p, became a 20p, a 10p, a 50p, and then it was like size for fist on the side of my head. But again, I just managed to just say, like, stress from work or whatever. So I managed to cover it up, but that was the point where I knew I needed to confront it, and then started to at least try and manage my debts and whatever. And again, I was successful with that for a little period, but my debts didn't peak until 2016. It's about 20k in debt at the time, and I'd lost a relationship who she knew but didn't know the full details. Then I started another relationship about 18 months later, and that was the point then where my gambling maybe reduced a little bit, because I wanted to be more honest and stuff, and to a degree revealed stuff to her, but it didn't last long, because I'd have a stressful period at work again, or something would happen, a family issue, whatever. It was always the coping mechanism to gamble. And I guess similar to alcohol, if I had a really bad day at work, I work in sales as well. It's interesting. You had a guy on recently, and he was talking about the same thing, right?
Yeah. Was it Darren?
Darren, yeah. And
yeah.
And he was saying he would always, he'd be at different airports drinking off the free bar and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And there's something with a sales career, because you're really competitive, and it's often people in sales or people who have played sport at a high level, they're really susceptible to gambling, because again, they need that win. So if I had a bad day at work, or the office didn't do well one day, I would go home and think, right, I need to get a win. Like, where can I get a win from? Right, I know there's an 8 o'clock kickoff. But then equally, then if I had a really good day, we'd finish at 6, go out for a drink, be home for say 7 or 8 or whatever. And I was like, right, okay, this is flat. How can I pick my nut up again? I need to keep winning. I've got momentum now. I want to keep this buzz going.
Yeah.
So it was like the perfect storm. You would gamble life away. And it was part of that coping mechanism where it finally sort of reached the head, if you like. I was going to say reach rock bottom, but I didn't reach rock bottom until I was in recovery.
Right.
Weirdly.
Okay.
But I'd reached the lowest point of my active addiction. And my dad was in hospital for a month. And my parents are divorced. My brother lives in Isle of Man. You know, so I was like the primary carer, if you like. So I was in hospital every day. And I was getting a bonus from work come in, like an annual bonus type thing, of 10 grand. And I did the 10 grand in like 4 or 5 days of hospital visits.
Gosh.
And it was that point then where the 10K was meant to be used for a deposit to a house with me and my partner. Like we'd identified a house we wanted, you know, we were almost ready to go. And it was that point, it's like, right, the money's gone. Told her a little bit, but not really in not much detail, but revealed, you know, to an extent, some of the problems. She then was distraught and I was on cloud 9. I thought, I've just revealed it. That's it. Like, there you go. Take my baggage.
Oh, yeah.
You deal with that.
I've admitted the problem, and like now it's going to go away.
Yeah, you deal with it. And I couldn't understand why she was upset.
Than we realise, actually.
I've talked about that. I've talked about that with my dad. Like when I used to say to him, "Just tell us you're an alcoholic. Just tell us you're an alcoholic." And then he'd go, "Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. So what?" Like, and I took that literally. When you admit you've got a problem, that's the first step, but it really isn't, is it?
No, and it's definitely not, because then her, you know, a few hours later, she came in the room and said, "Right, it's me the gambling, because all right, you know, we're done. If you place another bet, like you need to promise me never going to do it." And in my initial reaction, you know, I was so deep into addiction, and after 12 years of doing it every day, betting every day for 12 years, pretty much, you know, if you average it out. And so I'd had a few periods where I didn't bet, but I would just make it up, you know, for points. So being an active gambler for 12 years, she gave me the ultimatum and I chose the gambling. Yeah. So I let her walk out, came home the next day from work, all the stuff was gone. And it took a few days for the pennies to drop, to be like, what the fuck have you done? Yeah. You know, it's like, right, you're going to lose something actually important for gambling. So that's what sort of triggered the recovery, really. But we sort of got back together, but then we ended up, you know, the damage had been done, you know, by my lies and stuff. The trust was gone. So it wasn't until, let's say the August where I finally dealt with it. So that was in like December. Which what I say to people is similar to like, right, there you go, have that, I'm good. It's like the first few months of recovery from addiction, any addiction, are so important, because it's so easy to get complacent because you're enjoying, you know, some good stuff, but that's sort of when you're most vulnerable as well.
Yeah, definitely. As I agree with that fully. And it's interesting how you said how even when you knew, it took like 8 months, because that's very similar to me. I kind of stopped drinking in the August and then started again. And it took me till the following June to finally get my shit together and go, that's it, enough's enough. I had to do more damage before I really saw the damage that I'd done. I'm interested to, if you don't mind sharing, to know what you said meant by you hit your rock bottom in recovery.
So, I was in, so I put a message out the other day on my Instagram, and it was abstinence is not recovery. You know, it's like I wasn't gambling, but I hadn't dealt with the addiction at all, right? Yeah. So we'd moved, you know, we managed to work things out, and then we put an offer in on another house a few months later. And then at the start of lockdown, I was just in a flat, but then we said, well, look, it's lockdown, let's save money, let's all be together. And we moved in with parents, right, in lockdown. And there was so much going on. Can you remember, like in March, first lockdown? I thought the world was ending. You know, it's like, you know, everyone was properly was like, right, we don't know what's going on there. Right?
Yeah, that
So
was a proper lockdown, wasn't it? The first one. Like the streets were empty, weren't they? It was like a real one.
And you weren't, and because of that, then I wasn't speaking to anybody.
Yeah.
So like at the time where I should have been, having been basically lying for over a decade.
Yeah.
You know, it was the time I should have been talking, but I was trying to be like the man of the house, if you like.
Yeah.
And being like, right, there's bigger problems to my gambling. I've sorted that. And all it ended up doing was I was just isolating myself further and further and further. And then I threw myself into work too much as the distraction.
Yeah.
And anyway, it just built up and built up. And we were due to move into our house in July. And then in mid-June, you know, one day I just woke up and was like, no, I can't do this. You know, just completely self-sabotaged.
Yeah.
You know, which is what addicts do. You know, it's classic self-sabotage. So, you know, even though I wasn't in addiction, because I hadn't dealt with it in the right way, in recovery, and confronted actually what, you know, what my legacy of it was and all the rest of it, I was still acting the same way, even though I wasn't gambling.
Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it, that actually the more you've talked about this, obviously I've got a massively bigger understanding just from this conversation, but there's so many similarities. It is the same. I always thought, oh, gambling addicts, that's different than drink or drugs. That's a worse addiction. And it's really not. It's an addiction. It's a compulsion. And the damage is the same.
I don't know why. Because for me, I found stopping drinking relatively easy once I'd made that decision. But I feel like something like gambling, and I'm not saying this for everyone, but just for me, I'd find that so much harder, because I think it's having, like, every time you get a spare minute, like you said, you were doing it when you went to the toilet, you were doing it, you've got your phone with you like all the flipping time. So it would just be so easy to go on. So what do you do instead now? That's what people said to me. What do you do? You don't drink. What do you do? What do you do, Nick, now? Don't drink.
No. I'm not teetotal, but so the reason you know, I was keen to come on to speak to you guys as well is, so I as part of then 8 months into recovery, when I finally dealt with it, you know, and you know, trying to then deal with the legacy of everything, you know, as the relationships had gone, and you know, I was looking over the full 12 years, but like, right, what have I actually done? Where am I? And my parents never knew, you know, so I remember telling my mum, and you know, I was bricking it, you know, going over to tell my mum, and she was great, she was amazing, but the one thing she said was like, I'm just really worried now you can replace one addiction with another.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just and I went out on a couple of big benders in the summer, and I thought, yeah, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. So I thought, right, I'm just going to take a period of not drinking. Like, I'm enjoying finally in my life having a bit of clarity of thought.
Yeah.
You know, and being more present and like self-care and stuff. And I thought, yeah, this could go left pretty quickly. So I went sober for 4 months, from the August till Christmas. And even now, like, you know, I've never been a big home drinker anyway. So through lockdown, you know, I wasn't drinking much at all. Forgot your question, sorry.
It's mad how it just kind of like, it is all connected, in it, like the gambling, and like you said, replacing one thing with another. You said before about like throwing yourself into work. That's something that I did when
that's an addiction, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I just think it's a really, really, like, I can just feel it. Like, I've never thought about how I used to feel when I was younger, and I used to be, and I know it's not massive compared to other people, but I remember the anxiety around it and the nervousness, and it was just awful. And I just think it's just I don't think people realise how bad a gambling addiction can be.
Well, that's what I was trying to say before. I think I saw it as well. That's not not that it's not a real addiction, because I know it's a real addiction, but until speaking to you, I didn't realise how invested your whole life is in. I mean, we've spoken to Mark from Wise Up, but we didn't get the nitty gritty like this, and I didn't realise how emotionally invested and how dependent that is. It's dependency. You're dependent on it, you know, going to the toilet, sitting in a restaurant, all of that. And I think, just to say what Lisa was saying, she was just asking me, what do you do instead now?
Yeah. I do use the phrase that recovery needs redirection. You know, you do need something to do with your time and stuff. But, you know, I started learning the guitar a little bit. You know, I'm not musical at all, but you know, I started doing that in the early stages because, you know, if you learn a difficult skill in recovery, it will go some way to giving you a reward. It's like, right, I'm getting a little bit better, like this is good, and it just something to take your time with it. But I think, you know, genuinely what I do, you know, is I know it's going to sound like really wanky or whatever, but like self-care, right? Yeah. So I treat myself better. And, you know, I've always quite liked cooking, but I would cook and I would invariably fuck the meal up or burn the meal or whatever because I was on my phone. Checking the score, can I cash out of this or should I double up on that? You know, so I'd be stirring the pot with one hand and betting with the other. You know, so just anything I do now, I just try and be present, like get off the phone. You know, I've got obviously the gambling guide, socials and stuff, but get off the phone more because the phone was always in their hand because you needed it there. Yeah. Because you needed to know where your bet was at. And just generally being more interesting on other people too. You know, it makes you so selfish. You know, my friends take the piss now because, you know, my catchphrase now is good for you. It's like, but I never meant that before. Someone would say something good to me. I'd be like, all right, cool. You know, but I've just lost a bet, mate. So I don't care. It's like, I'm genuinely interested in people now. It's like, you know, pleased that people are doing well. And I want to see people doing well because, you know, you're finally in that position yourself, you know.
It just makes you a better person, doesn't it? I think, like you said, being more present, phoning people to say hi that you perhaps wouldn't have done before. Like, I love it. I say this all the time. Like, it's getting
gonna do it.
But honestly, like coming out and stopping drinking for me has been so life-changing. Like, I love it. I just love there's never a day, right, I don't get up and think, I love being sober. I love everything about it. It makes me happier. It makes me more present. It makes me do things like this and get to meet people like you. It's just amazing. And when you're saying about self-care, I was at Alex's the other day and I was like, you need to be doing more stuff for yourself, Alex, because she doesn't do enough. And then I
play the guitar as well. That's what I was yelling at. I took up the guitar again.
And I'm like, you do need to be like have that self-care. And then I thought about it and I was like, God, I am so fucking kind to myself.
She really is. Too kind. She's took my share.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for you.
She actually is, though. She's really good at self-care. And the other thing is, because, and I mean this in such a positive way, I hope it comes across more positive than I'm saying it.
Oh, no, I'm
scared. Don't be scared. I promise you it's scared. She's such an unstoppable force. Like, I went sober because I saw her living it up and loving it. Her mum went sober because she wanted a piece of what she's got. Then because I got a piece of what she's got, my husband went sober to get a piece of what I'd got. It's like a ripple effect. And that's why we love it so much, because everyone around us gets a bit of that buzz. Do you know what I mean? And you must be having the same effect.
Yeah, so get this. So I live in Cornwall, right? And one of the guys who I work with, he lives in Boston, Lincolnshire, right? But he does remote work for us, driving around to different clients and stuff. So he lives in Boston, and I hadn't told anyone. After I sent the tweet that sort of exploded, I hadn't told anyone. So it's like, look, you know, if people are going to find it, it's like, it's me. Started doing the videos. It's like, I'm not hiding it. You can clearly see it's me. So I owned it for the first time, so I wasn't ashamed of it. But I didn't tell anyone. And then he plays football, and one day I got this text through, and he's like, mate, you're not going to believe this. It's like, right, I'm at football training. He was, sorry. It was always like football tournament or something. And he said one of the lads in the changing rooms basically broke down and said, look, lads, I've got this problem, you know, with gambling, blah, blah, blah. And I've seen, and someone said, oh, where's all this come from? And they said, I've just seen this tweet, which was my tweet. And they were sharing around the changing room.
Oh,
and
wow.
the lad who saw it showed it to my mate and was like, said like his heart froze. He's like, fucking hell. That's Nick.
That's my mate.
That's Nick. Yeah. And then all of the football team, they said, then self-excluded, or there's this service or whatever you want to call it called GamStop, which excludes you from all of the UK bookmaker sites, right? And he said they all did it there and then. I was like, fucking hell.
Oh, me.
But it's like you said, you know, so Lisa becomes Alex, becomes Alex's husband, becomes probably his mate at work, becomes his son.
It really does.
It's contagious. And I think it's contagious because it's I look at you, I don't know if you are the same, right? You look at photos of yourself from before and you're smiling, but like, you know,
behind the eyes.
Behind the eyes, yeah.
Whereas it's just more, it's so much more genuine. Do you know on that there's another sober account I follow? It's really good. Megan, do you know Megan? Positively Meg.
Oh yeah, she changed her name. What was she called? I do know you mean, yes, but she had a different name at the beginning, I think.
Oh, did she? Yeah, Positively Meg or something in it. And she did this video the other day, and it was similar. It was like showing her at her worst when she was this party girl and stuff, and then now, and you just look at it and think, well, yeah, you do look so much happier. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's not just. Sorry. It's not like I always thought, like people when they stopped drinking, it was because of the alcohol was out of the system, so they looked like fresher or better. But it's not, is it? It's just like that inner genuine glow that just kind of shines out, and that happens with everything. I actually proper love your Instagram, right? Like, and what we get commented on all the time with our podcast is how we cover such like deep topics but still have like that sense of humor, and I think that's what you do with your Instagram. I think you help make recovery look really cool, like, you know, it's all right, like, look, you can do it, and you can, you know, you have a laugh about things, but also you're covering something really serious. I just think it's so relatable, and I think you're doing just an incredible job. I think you should be really, really proud of yourself. And that with the football lads is just, that give me full goose pimples. That I think being loud and proud about it, it takes so much courage, and people don't realize sometimes how much courage that takes, because you've kept it a secret for so long. To kind of give that release and help other people is like amazing. It really is.
I've still got another question though. I'm sorry, I don't know if we'll come to the end, but I've got another question that has just popped in my head. I'm interested, right? Because with drinking, people always say it's everywhere, it's in your face, you can't avoid it, and I'm not necessarily saying the same about gambling, but you've got to self-lead. Like you just said, you unsubscribe from everywhere. You have to do that. Yeah. You have to unsubscribe. You have to take responsibility. Does that then, and this is a genuine interest, mean that all money things become quite, oh, can I do that? Can I not do that? You know, like, for example, stocks and shares. It's not gambling, but it's risk-taking. Would that be something you'd go, no, I can't do that. I'm not going to get involved in cryptocurrency. Is it like that as well?
Yeah, crypto stocks, they are gambling. Yeah, you remember the GameStop thing a few weeks ago, or about a month ago in America? You know, GameStop, and they all.
Oh no, I didn't.
The Reddit forums, and basically this one forum, they all backed this stock, and this hedge fund on Wall Street lost billions. And anyway, it was in the news, and loads of people were in the gambling community were talking about it. Like, is it gambling? Like, it is. It is. Yeah. It is. You're putting money in the hope of getting a financial outcome, which is more than your stake, right? Yeah. So it is gambling. I I just like to be clean. I think again, so it's that authenticity or whatever. I don't bet on anything, you know. So if we were doing a sweepstake in the office on a Grand National, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, would I buy a lottery ticket? No. Like, I would just do no forms of gambling, because although I feel recovered, or I am recovered, so it's not like, right, if I bought a lottery ticket, I'm going to end up betting a grand on Chelsea tonight. It's not that, but it's almost like I compare it to this boxer called Floyd Mayweather, you know, who was unbeaten. And it's like, well, I'm protecting my own. It's like that. I'm unbeaten. I don't want anything, because it's so, you know, it feels so like, again, it sounds really wanky, but because it feels pure, I don't want anything to be like, I've not had a bet in 16 months, apart from, though, I mean, it was a Grand National.
I get it.
You know.
It's like when people say, why don't you just have one drink, or why don't you just have one glass of champagne and to toast with? Like, why would I? No, like,
and we probably could now. We probably could, in truth.
We could. Of course, I could. But
Same.
why would I want to? Like, you get to that point, and I really get that. It's that pure. You know, in the first 12 months of my sobriety, if I'd have even accidentally sipped a drink I'd have been traumatized. Like, no, right. If I accidentally sipped something, I'd be like, ugh, and I wouldn't really want it. It wouldn't traumatize me. But in the first 12 months, I'd have been devastated, because I felt so pure. Like, it hadn't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I totally get that.
Was it you? I think, Lisa, it was you the other day. You would sorry, I don't know if it's your husband or your ex-husband or whatever, but you're like, I'm all right. I just don't drink red wine.
Yeah,
it's
like, that was my ex-husband.
Yeah. So like that, it's you know, as you said, Alex, it's like I could easily be like, I just don't bet on sports anymore, because that was my problem. You know, it's like, right, I can put a tenner in a sweepstake, like, there's no issue, and it wouldn't jeopardize my recovery. But why bother?
Yeah,
it's like, I don't need it. I don't want it. I get happiness and contentment from other things. It's like, it's not going to give me anything. I'm not chasing that anymore. You know, I'm not chasing something I don't have.
I get it, and I think it's I think it's just worth it. You know, I was genuinely interested in where's the line. You know, do some people say, well, investments are fine because that's not real gambling, but gambling is when you're actually putting a bet on. You know,
the grey area gambling.
The grey area gambling, yeah, like grey area drinkers. You know, like, you know what I mean? Just like, it's the kind of like extremes of the recovery. Would some people say absolutely no money goes across to anything like that, and other people go, well, that's okay, but that's not okay. And I suppose it is. It's personal preference, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, you know, I don't do any form of gambling at all, and I would include shares and stocks in there. Some people would, you know, and recovery is so unique. You know, and I don't preach, you know, as you said, Lisa, and thanks, you know, about the accountant to try and destigmatize it. It's just to show people the positivity of recovery. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do or what not to do. So it's up to you. But yeah, I can just share what has worked for me.
Yeah, you do a good job at it. You really do. Before we do go, I want to ask you, if anybody was listening now and thinking, I know that I've got a problem with this. They're in debt. They're on their ass. They've been lying to everybody. They cannot see a way out, because I think I can imagine like people getting to that point of the money. It's impossible. I cannot get it from anywhere. I don't know what I'm going to do. What can they do in that situation? Can they be helped? Yeah.
And again, you know, I'm proof that you can. And there's so many people, you know, who have beaten addiction, you know. So 100%. I break it down into three things. So it's acceptance, and then accountability, and then access. So acceptance, you have to, you know, it's like the 12 steps thing, which I don't actually follow, but, you know, you have to recognize, right, my life is chaotic. There is a better way, right? So you have to acknowledge that and at least believe that change is possible. And then accountability, you have to tell people, because as an addict, you're not worried about letting yourself down. So if you do take any steps, but you don't tell anyone, which I tried to do before, so well, I'm inevitably going to bet again because I'm only letting myself down. And addiction is self-harm anyway. So it's like, well, it doesn't matter. So you have to be completely honest with people because you've been lying for so long, and just embrace the honesty. And then with access, there is so there are some really good tools. There's ways to block all of the regulated UK bookmakers. There's ways to block going into casinos. There's various different schemes which anyone can message me for. But yeah, fundamentally, gambling addiction makes you such a good liar. You just have to start talking to people. And if you don't do that, and I've seen it, I've had people message me and say, look, I'm ready to quit. I want to quit, but I'm just going to keep it, between me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, and I say to them, it's like, look, that's fine. But in my opinion, to you, I don't think your recovery will last, because unless you are honest with other people and you actually have that accountability, then, you will struggle.
This is
so
the
helpful.
same, Nick, again, when we were saying then about my ex-husband, what he did when he wanted to stop drinking is he actually went through the 12-step program. I've never done that. Admitted that he was an alcoholic, to me and his mum and all these other people, but yet kept a circle of friends that he told them he'd just stopped drinking because it made him feel better. And that circle of friends, so we always had them people. They'd be like, "Oh, you're still stopping drinking? Yeah, I feel good, and I've done this, and it's brilliant." But always knew that when he was ready, he could just go back and get wasted, which he does.
That's so interesting, because you know what? I had this conversation twice this week on coaching calls as well, where people have said, I'm just not ready to tell them yet. And I'm like, look, the way I see it is there's red, amber and green people. There's the people that you can tell your whole life story to. There's the people you can tell something to, and there's people you don't have to tell anything to, but you still need to say, I don't drink.
Yeah.
Because even those people need to know that you don't drink, or there will always be an opportunity for somebody to say, just have one. And there's always the opportunity for you to take it. It's so interesting Lisa, that. I agree. I agree.
There's so many similarities, isn't there? It's like, and I just think I know it's hard when you're in that space and you're ashamed and you carry a lot of shame, I think, around it. But if you can just find the strength to kind of, it sounds so cliche and we don't normally say things like this, but if you can find the strength to kind of reach out and ask for that help, it is there, but you've got to want to do it, haven't you? You've got to reach out and do it.
You've got to want to do it, and you need to, and this is what again, I don't preach people can do what they want, but like for me, I think there's too much shame of addiction.
Yeah.
It's like, look, remove the stigma. I look at it like an illness, right? So if you caught COVID, you're not going to feel guilty unless you're at like a rave or something, right? But you're not going to feel guilty if you caught COVID. It's like, well, look, I became addicted. I couldn't control starting the addiction, but you can control stopping.
Yeah.
And if you can sort of, break up those two thought processes and view it as an illness, then recovery should lead to remission. I'm not going to be in recovery for the rest of my life. It's like I feel recovered, not recovering. So.
We say exactly the same, that we don't say we're in recovery because actually we feel fully healed and great. If people want to say they're in recovery, fine, that's their choice, but we say exactly the same, that we're recovered, we're loving life,
And I say sober all the time because people say you shouldn't. They say it means boring or this or that, or we went and did something, a bit of filming, didn't we, the other day?
On Monday.
It was like, try and stay away from the word sober. And I was like,
well, actually,
because this morning on your TV program, there was somebody filming somebody in a beer garden going, how does that taste? Oh, delicious, that alcohol. But we won't say sober. What did I say it 5 times in my first sentence?
She actually did, right, Nick? She actually did.
Yeah,
So
but the
yeah,
reason we
I
say
went
it-
sober because sober people are bloody sober rocking sober.
I just think like
My name is Lisa Soberson.
I might change it. But yeah, I just think if we can say it, the more we can talk about it, the more we can speak about it, the more it does remove that stigma around it. And it stops, like when people say, oh, have you stopped drinking? Yeah, why? Well, one, either it's none of your business. Two, I just wanted to. I feel good. There's loads of different reasons, isn't there?
And that's what I mean.
But you know
by
what,
the
I just say, sorry, yeah. So the other day, literally at the weekend, right, on Saturday. So I went to view a house, and I was just chatting to the estate agent and stuff, and it was like, oh, how come you're 35? Like, how come you seem to have a good job? Like, how have you owned the house? Whereas before, I'd always give him a load of bullshit. And I said, I had a pretty severe gambling addiction for over a decade. And he was just looking at me like, it's like, I'm not saying it to make you feel awkward, mate. It's like that you asked. So
It's so funny that, like, if you don't want to know the detail, get your nose out of my business and don't ask the question. I'm not going to be ashamed just because you.
Right, exactly, because there's nothing to be ashamed about. And then if I didn't tell him that, I would have got in the car afterwards and be like, oh, managed to lie again to him. That's good.
Yeah.
And then you're just in that lying mindset again. It's like, well, look, you've asked me, so can I see the bathroom now? Cool. Like,
it's
good.
proud of it as well. Like, honestly, I tell everyone, even if they hadn't asked, I've told people in shops by accident that I don't drink. Like, I must be so internally proud of it. And I always remember my mum saying this. We'd gone to a meditation class, and my mum was so proud of herself for stopping. And she'd not gone to this meditation class for like a year. And then she says hi to this girl, and we sat there. Went, hi, how are you? She went, yeah, I'm good, thanks. I don't drink anymore. This woman went, all right. And then she was like, why did I say that? I'm like, because you're so proud of it.
I love it when people ask. Like, I was telling Lisa last summer when I went into the shop near me, I bought a pack of Heineken Zeros. Got to the counter, and the guy behind the counter just went, you do know they're alcohol free? Like a proper warning. And I was like, yeah, I don't drink. Like, do you warn everybody about the 4 with alcohol that they pick up? I didn't say that bit. I didn't say that bit. But actually, it's so backward, isn't it? Like, you're warning me that I'm not going to get pissed from a poison.
Yeah.
But you didn't warn me that I walked out with 10 bottles of wine. Yeah, you do know it's alcohol free, don't you? Yep. Like,
I get that. I get why they told you, because when I was drinking, if I'd have picked up Heineken Zeros and got off, I'd have been well pissed off. I'd have been like, oh my God, I've got the non-alcoholic. What's the point of them?
Yeah, I get it. But I'm just saying it's flipped. It's so backward the way that we view the world, isn't it? And I just want to credit Kate Bailey from Love Sober for the Red Amber Green. It's not actually my idea, and I really don't want her to think I'd take that.
I'm guilty about it.
Yeah, for ages. But it's such a good way. No, it is such a good way though. Like, I'm not saying don't tell people, just to like, I don't drink, or I don't drink because of my mental health, or I don't drink because I had a miscarriage, my mental health did. There's different ways of telling the story, is what I'm saying. But you shouldn't avoid telling the story. That is exactly the point you were making.
Tell everyone.
You're loud and proud, yeah.
I'm the worst person. I don't eat meat either, right? Did you know that, Nick? I'm vegan. So
I didn't know that. No.
I wasn't until after I got sober. But that's what else I tell people. I'm like, I don't drink. Oh, I don't eat meat. I just can't wait to tell people this.
What do you do? And they are genuinely intrigued as to what she does. You don't eat meat and you don't drink alcohol. It's as if before people imagined for 24 hours a day you were eating steak and red wine. That really wasn't the case.
Right.
Probably were.
Honestly, I've been so interested. Normally, our conversation's a bit shorter than this, but we've gone on and on and on because it's just been genuinely. I do. It's just been such a genuinely interesting conversation. Like, I feel like I've learned loads, and you're just so genuine, like so open and genuine. It's been lovely talking to you.
No, likewise. Thanks for inviting me on. Yeah.
And congratulations on your days as well. I think it's amazing. Keep up the hard work on your Instagram, because I love it. I'm probably going to stalk it some more because it just makes me laugh.
I'm going to start stalking it now because I haven't stalked it, Lisa.
It's proper good. It's really good. And what we'll do is we'll put all your links and details on the description of this. So if you can send them to us, and then everyone else will be able to find you as well. So thank you so much, Nick.
We're going to stop recording, but don't go away. It's the end, but not the end.
Okay.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.